It can lull people to sleep and afflicts those around it with nightmares in order to protect itself. However, it means no harm. It chases people and Pokemon from its territory by causing them to experience deep, nightmarish slumbers. Folklore has it that on a moonless night, a strange incident occurred in which every inhabitant of a village suffered nightmares. The villagers attested that Darkrai had appeared before them. Stay tuned to see if you can build this LEGO Darkrai MOC yourself. So if you've been following my Instagram, you may remember that I first posted this MOC design back in October, where I did a mini series of scary and spooky related Pokemon MOCs for each week of that month. Darkrai was the last of that series, and I already posted the instructions for my Mimikyu and Ghastly MOCs, and the review videos of those are already up on my channel, so you can check those out. Also, for those of you who don't follow my Instagram, I usually post all of my MOCs there first, so you can kind of see the progression or changes from the initial design to the final build. Once it's finally built, I'll post it on this channel, along with the instructions and parts files so you can build them yourself. The overall design of this was pretty smooth, but since there are a lot of flowy and spiky elements in its official design, this brought up a few challenges here and there, but I'll get into more detail later in this video. The first thing you may notice that wasn't shown in my IG post was that I added a stand for this MOC. The stand is pretty simple and only uses a handful of parts, but it's quite sturdy and easy for it to balance. So you can pick it up, and it doesn't take a lot of work for it to stand properly. Typically when I'm designing in Stadio or Studio, and I think a MOC will need a custom stand, I will design and add the stand after the main model is physically built, just to see how it's balanced and where to best connect the stand. For Darkrai in particular, I wasn't sure if its tail or cloth at the back here would make it want it to lean backward, so I did consider adding some hinge pieces to have it lean forward a bit, but luckily enough, the main body was heavy enough so that I could just use a couple of these trans black panel pieces attached to the center of the lower body and use the large dish piece for its base. If you wanted to, and if you have the pieces in your collection, you could easily modify the stand with trans clear pieces instead, but I chose to use trans black and black here just to resemble its dark shadow or aura that emits when it's hovering, which I think also helps add to its overall presence. I know in some scenes in the Pokemon movie where Darkrai was featured, it showed it having legs, but I didn't like how long and awkward they looked, so I didn't even try to attempt to add them here. But if you wanted to, you could probably find a way to add them, but I'll leave that up to you guys. So now we'll take a closer look at the lower body, and this portion of the design was one of the trickier parts to capture since it has a lot of spikes or pointed elements sticking out at all angles. It also sort of looks cloth-like when you move towards the back, where it flows out, almost forming a tail. I wanted to fit as many spikes as I could for the front portion, and I played around with some different building techniques here to capture that look. One of the early iterations used the octagonal bar plate piece for its center, and having all the spikes attached with the clips, which would have helped to add some more articulation and posability, but I left too many gaps and a lot of the smaller sub-assemblies could fall off easily. I tried other configurations with other bar and clip pieces, but didn't like the gaps that were left, so decided to have the spikes be fixed and opted to have it look more solid, which is what you see here. Like with my other MOCs, it's built around a number of snot bricks for the interior, and I use different slope pieces to give it some variability, but the design is pretty much mirrored from left to right. For the tail or cloth at the back, it's built in two sections and are attached with the bar and clip pieces, so you can change the angle of each section, but there's a bit more range of motion for the section at the end. And this just helps give you some options to change its look slightly. Looking at the upper body now, this entire portion is attached using clip tiles onto a pneumatic T-bar piece, so you can actually bend the entire upper body forward and back and twist it side to side. And there's quite a lot of range of motion here, so you can get into a lot of different dynamic poses. One of the other challenges of this MOC was capturing the look of its red collar, while making sure there was enough room for its head to fit in. I used a bunch of these red hinge plate pieces, which is only attached at two spots to form the ring shape, and topped it off with these 1x1 double slope pieces in red, which are a bit uncommon, but wasn't too expensive when I bought them. I think these help resemble the official design a bit better than just the regular 1x1 cheese slope pieces, but if you don't feel like paying extra for the double slope pieces, feel free to use the regular cheese slopes instead. For the front, I use this red modified slope piece to cap off the collar and to capture its iconic look, which I think also helps transition perfectly to the rest of the body with the help of these double and triple slope pieces in black. The back uses the same pieces and has some slope and wedge pieces for the sides, just to finish off its half egg shaped look. For the arms, the design is mirrored on both sides, and the shoulder sub-assemblies are fixed to the body, but you are still able to pose the arms since they're attached using clip tiles. So you can rotate the entire arm forward and back, and bend them up and down as well. There's also articulation at the elbow, so you can bend them left and right, and up and down. And I chose not to include any wrist articulation, but you can open and close each of the fingers, just to give it some menacing looks. For the shoulder sub-assemblies, they have a flowy cloth-like design, and were a bit tricky since I wanted to look as smooth as it could from all angles without making it too bulky. There are a few sharp corners, especially on the undersides, but I tried to use inverted slopes where I could to help smooth out some of the transitions, which I hope don't stick out too much from the overall look. Lastly, for the head, it's also attached using clip tiles onto a pneumatic T-bar piece, so you can rotate the entire head left and right and bend it forward and back, but the range of motion is limited just due to the collar. The base of the head is built with studs on the side construction, and the eyes are done just using a couple of stack plates covered with a wedge plate on each side, which is pretty simple, but I think it gets the look across quite effectively. The hair is also quite flowy, so I used a bunch of these curved slope pieces and a couple of these newer inverted arch pieces to help break up the curvature a bit. Like with the shoulders, I didn't want to add too much bulk to the hair since it tapers to the end, so I made a few compromises on the underside, so it may look a bit choppy or blocky at some angles, but I did try to use inverted curved slopes wherever I could to help smooth it out. Also in the models I reference, you actually don't see its eye on the right side here, but I chose to expose both eyes since I personally like this look better than the official design. However, for those of you who want it to be more accurate, you could easily cover the right eye with a 2x2 tile or curved slope, but I'll leave that up to you guys to customize. Finally, for those of you wondering, this is how it looks scaled up to a random minifigure. And the total part count for this MOC is 278 pieces. At the time of the recording of this video, it can cost around $45 to $55 Canadian. Please keep in mind this does not include shipping or handling, and your final cost may vary. For those of you who've stayed this long, I've included a link in the description below to both the parts file and PDF instructions if you're interested in building this yourself. So that's pretty much it. Comment down below what you guys think of this MOC, and I hope you guys enjoy this video. Thanks for watching.